Okay, let's just get right into it. What if I told you that pretty much everything you've ever learned about productivity, about that 24/7 hustle culture, is not just wrong, but it's actually the very thing holding you back from real sustainable success? Yeah, we're going to take apart the mindset of the 1% and uncover this weird, powerful paradox that's at the heart of all peak performance. You know this voice, right? This is the mantra of the hustle. It's that little voice in your head telling you that every single moment of rest is a moment of weakness. It's a really powerful, almost violent way to look at time. The core belief here is that you're in a constant war, and the enemy? It's every single wasted second. And look at this number, 1,440. That's it. That is the number of minutes you get every single day. No more, no less. It's a resource you can never, ever get back. And the top 1%? They don't just manage this number, they weaponize it.
So let's start with that first idea, this relentless, all-out war on wasted time. It's a mindset that's built on taking radical ownership of your life, on extreme focus, and honestly, it's fueled a ton of success stories.
See, this way of thinking isn't about blaming your boss or the traffic or anything else. It's all about what psychologists call an internal locus of control, which is just a fancy way of saying you believe you are 100% in charge of your own outcomes. You're not a victim of your schedule. You are the architect of it. And the moment you stop blaming and start owning, well, that's when the entire game changes. And the power of this kind of intense focus is backed up by some pretty incredible data. There's a famous study from Harvard, and while people debate its exact origins, it's become a legend in the business world for a reason. Get this. 84% of students who had no real goals, they just earned a baseline salary. The 13% who had goals but just kind of kept them in their head, they earned double. But the tiny 3% who actually wrote their goals down, they earned on average 10 times more than the other 97% combined. That's the staggering power of clarity and intention. And they defend that intention with some very specific tactics. They get rid of multitasking because they know that every time you switch tasks, you pay a cognitive tax. You lose your focus, your momentum. They ruthlessly cut out negativity, whether it's complaining or just the people who do it, because it just drains your finite mental energy. And maybe the most important one, they start before they feel ready. They create their own momentum instead of sitting around waiting for it. But, and this is a huge but, there's a dark side to this obsession. A really high hidden cost. What happens when that relentless pursuit of productivity becomes the goal itself? This is where the hustle starts to curdle into something, well, something dangerous. So meet Merlin Mann. This guy was a total hero in the productivity world. He created a system called Inbox Zero, which was this brilliant method for processing every single email to get to that mythical state, a completely empty inbox. I mean, the dream, right? It was all about taking control, killing digital clutter, and freeing up your mind. He was at the absolute top of his game. A major publisher hired him to write the definitive book on his system. I mean, this thing was a guaranteed bestseller. But then, 2 years went by, and the book never happened. So the question is, why would the master of productivity fail to produce? And here's why. Man had this incredibly painful realization. In his fanatical, obsessive quest to optimize every single second of his day, he had optimized the humanity right out of his life. He was winning the battle for his inbox, sure, but he was losing the war for his life, missing all of these irreplaceable moments. This is the paradox in action, and it has a name: toxic productivity. It is not healthy ambition. It's a self-destructive pattern where your entire self-worth gets tangled up with your output. Rest doesn't feel like a recharge anymore, it feels like a personal failure. And as you can probably guess, this leads directly to burnout. And this slide just draws a crystal clear line in the sand. Healthy ambition is pulled forward by your goals. Toxic productivity is pushed from behind by guilt. Healthy ambition sees rest as a strategic tool, something smart. Toxic productivity sees it as a moral failing. One is sustainable for a lifetime. The other is a one-way ticket to exhaustion. And this pressure creates a phenomenon that I think you'll recognize. It's called time confetti. It's when even if you do get a break, it's not really a break, is it? It's just these tiny shredded little pieces of time that are filled with this looming anxiety about all the things you should be doing. The free time itself actually becomes another source of stress. It's wild. So, if the relentless hustle just leads to burnout, what's the alternative? It's not laziness, not at all. It's a much smarter framework, and it's called strategic allocation of both your effort and your rest. I absolutely love this quote from leadership expert Michael Hyatt because it just flips the whole script. See, self-care isn't some indulgence you earn after you've been productive. It is a critical discipline that fuels your productivity. It's not the reward for the work, it's a requirement to do good work in the first place. And this is really the core logic behind working smarter. You've probably heard of it, the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. It basically shows that in almost everything, 80% of your results will come from just 20% of your efforts. So true productivity isn't about doing more things. It's about ruthlessly identifying and then pouring all your focus into that vital 20%. Okay, so how do you actually put this into practice? This table is basically your playbook. If you feel that chronic guilt whenever you try to rest, the countermeasure is to literally schedule intentional unproductivity. Put it in your calendar. Make rest a non-negotiable appointment. If your work just bleeds into every hour of the day, you have to define and defend clear boundaries. It's all about shifting from that compulsive busyness to an intentional, aligned focus. So really, it all boils down to this simple three-step framework. First, you have to redefine what success even means to you. Is it just the volume of stuff you produce, or is it about living your values? Second, you have to become a fierce defender of your boundaries. And third, you actively practice strategic on-productivity. You treat rest as the essential investment that it is. All right, let's tie all of this together now. The real secret of elite performers, the true advantage of the 1%, isn't that they never stop. It's that they are absolute masters of starting and stopping with radical intention. So the goal was never to get rid of breaks. The goal was to make your breaks as intentional and as strategic as your work. And a really practical system for this is something called the 3M framework, which structures your rest on 3 totally different scales. This framework is so smart. You have your micro breaks, just a few minutes, multiple times a day, that fight off decision fatigue and let you come back to a problem with fresh eyes. Then you have meso breaks, maybe an hour or two a week for a hobby or exercise, which foster creativity. And finally, you have macro breaks, a half day or even a full day a month to completely disconnect. These are absolutely essential for preventing systemic burnout and reconnecting with your big picture goals. And this right here brings us to the final, most important takeaway. The real 1% advantage isn't some superpower for endless work. It is the wisdom to understand that sustained peak performance requires strategic recovery. They don't earn rest, they invest in it. They treat rest as a non-negotiable input, not a reward you get at the end. You know, the average human lifespan is only about 4,000 weeks. It sounds like a lot, but when you think about it, it's shockingly finite. So after everything we've talked about, I'll just leave you with this one question. Knowing that true high performance requires both intense, focused work and deep, intentional rest, what does a truly well-spent day look like for you now?